This clip is brought to you by SaveWithConrad.com. On the July 13th Raw, we see a move that could change the landscape of women's wrestling forever. Of course, we're talking about Charlotte Flair, Becky Lynch, and Sasha Banks being called up to the main roster. Bayley's going to come in not too long afterwards. What are your memories of this? And do you think they knew at the time? I mean, I don't guess anybody could have known at the time what a big part of the company they would become. But this is a big moment when these ladies come up, because it feels like there's almost like a before and after when it comes to women in WWE. Would you agree?
You bet. You know, it's amazing how you can take three top talent, and just why I'm thinking about it, and I'll get back to the subject matter at hand, but in a previous broadcast, remember I told you that I told John Cena I would hire AJ Styles, Cowboy, and Bobby Roode, right? And I got shot down. Remember that conversation? No, we don't need those guys, Arn. We make our own stars. That's the conversation I had with John. And I was being selfish when I looked at those guys, and I knew what they could do to beef up your, seen as opponents, but beef up your whole talent roster. When I saw Ashley, Charlotte, and I saw Sasha, and I saw Becky, and I went down to the school, NXT, and I watched those ladies perform a couple times. Then I went down there. I went, okay, you got something here. This is at a different level, work-wise. Whoever is teaching them, needs to be patted on the butt, and those talent need to be patted on the butt, because they were just from being able to wrestle and tell a story and have their offense be solid and their selling be good and take good bumps and do innovative stuff. They were at a different level, and I knew they were going to make an impact if given a chance.
Let's talk about Vince's approach towards women's wrestling. He had tried this a few times before. He tried it in a big way with Wendy Richter, during the whole rock and wrestling era. Then he tried it, a decade later with Medusa, now here as Alundra Blaze. Neither time it worked. He scrapped it, and it feels like this time is different. And I kind of wonder, is that, in your opinion, based on the success that Ronda Rousey had, the mainstream for the UFC? Like, would he have rolled the dice again on women's wrestling, being in a prime spot on the show, had someone not said, hey, this can be successful, look what we did with Ronda? Or was it just a matter of timing, do you think? Had the work evolved enough to where Vince would just be into that, as you were?
Well, I mean, you can't really compare the different times, because let's face it, Wendy Richter was going to get a push, but who were her opponents? Right. Who else were on the roster besides her? You would bring in talent that were just part-timers to have matches with her. You're only as good as your opponent. It's not like you had an entire school around that talent, and everybody in the school, were going to be putting that talent over. Same thing with Medusa. How many girls were on the roster besides her? Who did she have to work with on a daily basis? But when you see an influx of three brand new faces that can all really go, and I mean really go, the magic that they can work just working with each other and working with some other talent that you've had, that you've been grooming, that are ready to take the next step. These three girls could have reached down and pulled that talent up another notch or two just by giving them a competitive match. That was the difference. There was three of them.
Next up, we've got Charlotte over a three-way with Brie Bella and Sasha Banks. They get 11 minutes and 28 seconds, which Meltzer would say was better than a normal women's bout on a WWE show, but still far below the NXT women's matches. Most of the crowd treated it like any other women's match on a pay-per-view as filler, but there are chants for NXT and we want Becky. So the crowd is smart to what's possible. And Meltzer gives it 2 3/4 stars. Charlotte wins. The figure 8 in the submission gets it done. What do you think? Do you think that perhaps Hunter knew how to showcase the women better than they could be done on the main roster? Is it more of the production element? What's the difference between the way NXT was presenting women in 2015 with the way WWE was on the main show?
First of all, this picture of Roman, Jesus Christ, he reminds me of me.
You know, I thought that when I saw it at first, I thought, why is he stealing Marty's pictures? This is ridiculous.
Yeah, I got to work with him on pulling that beard down just a little bit. But other than that could be me standing there. Awesome. Yeah, good for him, and I'm glad he's happy and healthy and looking great. You answered this question before we move on. Didn't they beat Charlotte for her debut match on Raw?
Yep, they brought her up as a one-off and had Natty beat her in record time in her hometown.
Okay. What does that tell you about the idiot choices that are made where talent is? Very crystal clear. Our audience are very smart. They do their homework. When you have a debut of a talent, if they've been anywhere, done anything, been on any television, been in any place that social media goes, our audience know who they are before they come through the curtain. And certainly Charlotte Flair couldn't go anywhere in the civilized world without people knowing who she is. She is a tremendous talent, as good as anyone out there on the female roster of any company, you know, and you can argue the point that she is the best. There's probably 3 or 4 girls you could argue which one was the best, but she's damn good. And she is a hard worker, and she's into her character and into her presence and what she brings to the table, and to be the face of the company where she's trying to get, she does all the right things. Okay. But to beat her on her debut, our audience would look at that and go, okay, well, she must not be a star like her dad. She failed her first match.
Right.
That's not good.
No.
I don't give a shit what anybody says. People say wins and losses don't matter. When you debut and you get beat in your first match when you have a lineage and a heritage like that, Conrad, name me one person, and I mean just one, that lost their way into getting over. Anybody.
I don't know. I don't have an answer for that.
There's not one. That's the answer. You have to present new talent as the star that you're trying to profess them to be, and they got to be successful from day one. And over a year period, they need to stay successful. If you want somebody that can stand alone on one side of a card against another opponent and headline a pay-per-view and draw, it takes a year to get over. And that's being on TV 52 weeks a year and out there doing your stuff and having good stuff to perform and good stuff to talk about and the right opponents and enough time, you name it. But I think it's just, you know, when I watch these talent that debut from NXT and get beat their first match on the big show, who's trying to prove a point? It's pretty obvious to me.
Hey, it's Conrad Thompson. Thanks for checking out the podcast here on YouTube. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell so you get a notice anytime we upload some new content. And go save yourself some money right now. If you're in a 30-year loan or you have credit card debt, it's not a matter of if I can save you money. It's a matter of how much. Find out right now for free at SaveWithConrad.com.